Alright, so this is an update on Mariupol and Donetsk. There was a Ukrainian artillery strike in Donetsk, uh, I do believe last night or yesterday. And yeah, so the update from Mariupol was just more confirmation of human shields. There was a woman saying that um, in her district where DPR had recently taken over it from Azov, um, Azov had embedded themselves around apartment complexes, schools, things like that. Anything anywhere there could be a civilian in a shelter, that's where they were setting up their forward operations in her neighborhood. Like I said, DPR seized it, and she made a very open call, a very open and direct call to President Zelensky to surrender the city. And I don't know if she really knows that he basically already gave that order. Because like I said, Ukrainian forces left the city on the 26th or 28th of February. Uh, they are still coming back to the outskirt districts of the city to work in a policing fashion, but they've pretty much given up Mariupol. It's Azov holding on to Mariupol that is the problem right now. Um, then in a nearby district, so DPR had this one district here, Azov had this district here, and Kiev had this district up here. So this is fighting that's happening on the outskirts of the city in the suburbs, and people were saying that conditions in the Kiev district are okay. Um, it's not like with Azov where if they're the ones patrolling the neighborhood, they just shoot you if they see you out of your shelter. Kiev is letting civilians come out of shelters to go in the park, get some fresh air. Still not letting them evacuate. But I mean, I don't I don't know what their problem is. I really don't. Um, but as far as can you even come out of a shelter in the Kiev occupied areas, you can. In the Azov occupied areas, you cannot. In the DPR occupied areas, you can, and they will also assist you to a refugee camp. They will help you evacuate. Um, but more troubling is what happened in Donetsk. So there was an artillery shelling in Donetsk in the city, um, in a very heavily residential neighborhood. Um, the citizens said these are mostly pensioners here, and in DPR, they're actually honoring pensions for people who work for the Ukrainian government. Is that not nice of them? Because the Ukrainian government's not honoring them. Uh, yeah, it was a pensioner neighborhood, mostly old people. Um, one woman was a survivor from World War II, a Holocaust survivor, uh, and her daughter was the one being interviewed. She was talking about how it's all pensioners in the neighborhood, it's all elderly people. Another guy who had survived World War II lived a couple of houses down. When the shell landed right outside of his house, he had a heart attack and died. I mean, wouldn't you? Um, I mean, they're also shelling like the Main Street district, just like. And they said when it started, they were attacking like years ago when when the strikes on Donetsk started so many years ago. They were going for military bases, things like that, factories, food storage facilities. Um, but when they ran out of those to hit, they just started hitting civilian targets. And I still remember that from the DTube days. And yeah, it's. I really don't understand it. And he was asking people who had survived the shelling. There was a mother and a daughter, and they were both like elderly. and a grandmother all living in one apartment uh, in like the urban district. And the shell actually hit their apartment, and the mom said, or so there's the grandma, the mom, and the daughter. All of them are like over 40. And the mom says that she got her mom out of that room just in time. Like, she's basically like bedridden. She can't move on her own. She has to be taken by somebody else, and they barely got her dragged out of the room before the shell hit. And he asked why they thought that the Ukrainian military was targeting uh, civilian districts, and I'm almost certain it wasn't actually Kiev. It's probably Azov, because it's always Azov. So he asked why they thought that this force from Ukraine was shelling the city, and they said it's because they see them as less than human. And that's really what it seems to have been, because like I said in the other video, this all started with unlawful arrests. That's where this all started, and then it escalated to inappropriate behavior. You know what I mean? With civilian women, and then with kids, and then public executions, and it just every step of the way over this years-long conflict between Ukraine, specifically the branch of Ukrainian military and government that have to do with the Azov, between them and Donetsk. And I just want to go ahead and reiterate, in case nobody realized, and if I actually do very much stand with the Donetsk People's Republic. They deserve autonomy if they want autonomy. I believe in secession rights, and what I'm seeing is a terrifying campaign of the state to just completely wash their government of a certain, or their country of a certain ideology. And if you're going to go through that kind of effort, why not just let them be themselves? Like, why? I understand that the territory, like the mineral wealth of that area, is high, but you can't commit genocides just because you want access to like lithium. That's not okay. And that's actually what we're watching. We're watching a state commit a genocide against the people within its own borders. So yes, I do stand with the Donetsk People's Republic. I understand that they're aligned with Russia, and there are a million grievances that I have with the Kremlin, but this is not one of them. This is not one of them. I've seen the evidence of what's happening in Ukraine. I've seen that the Russian military is trying to avoid civilian casualties. I watch the testimonies of several people in Mariupol who are saying that Azov, this group Azov, has been intentionally embedding FOBs in civilian neighborhoods to try to create civilian casualties. We have even further confirmation. So this is like well over 24 witnesses in the past like week who have said that they are not allowed to evacuate if they can leave their shelter if they're in a Kiev controlled area, but they're not allowed to leave the actual city or the grounds because they are being used as human shields. And even worse off, in the Azov Hill territory, they're not allowed to even come out at all, or they will be shot at by their supposed countrymen. So yeah, there's our update on what's happening over there. This is a really sad situation. Like, especially, I mean, everywhere is a sad situation, but I mean, Donetsk, almost, actually all. I'm pretty sure that one of the people said that the military installations in the city have been destroyed years ago, and now that the front is so far out ahead, they don't even see military in the city anymore. And I can actually believe that. But yeah, all civilian targets. It's quite unfortunate. I'll see y'all next time as soon as I get an update. Stay vigilant.